Hey guys, Languagehacker here with a new take on Boat Rogue. The new expansion, Castle Nathria, has come out with a few new cards that don't quite fit in Rogue, and then some other cards that kind of do fit in Rogue, so let's talk about those cards. The Secret Package is not in this deck. However, what we have added in this deck, let's talk about that. Door of Shadows, it's a 1-mana spell, it's a shadow spell. Draw a spell, cool. Infuse 2, so if 2 friendly minions have died while this has been in your hand, there's an extra effect. That spell you drew, you get a temporary copy of it to your hand. That disappears at the end of the turn. Which means if you do this after a couple minions have died, you can get like an extra copy of Prep or an extra copy of Shadow Step or some other stuff. Card draw, good. Cheap card draw, good. And technically it can be generation because of the temporary copy. Nice. Serrated Bone Spike, 2-mana spell. Deal 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, your next card this turn costs 2 less. That's pretty good. It's kind of like a Prep that kills something that also works on other cards. Doesn't have to be a spell, like Prep does have to be a spell. So this is good as well. Mana cheat, nice. Cheap, nice. And that synergizes well with the next card I want to talk about, Sinstone Graveyard. This is a location. This is kind of like a weapon. You spend mana, it's on the board, and you can use it like a weapon. You spend mana on it, and then you can choose to use it. You can only use this once a turn, and you can only use this once every 2 turns, actually. So once you activate it the first time, you have a cooldown where you can't use it for a turn, and then the second turn after you've used it, you can use it again. This has 2 durabilities. Some other locations have different durabilities. I think all are 2 or 3, but this one has 2 durability. Summon a 1/1 Stealth Ghost, and this has a +1/+1 for each other card you play this turn. Well, mana cheat, cheap cards, card draw works very well with this, especially when you're running the Burgle package, right? 0 mana nulls is a great way to buff up extra ghosts. So this gives you 2 minions over 3 turns technically, and they don't have to be like 10/10s. Even if you spawn like a 3/3 from this and then a 3/3 later, that's pretty good for a 2-mana card, right? And it has stealth, which means it is difficult for your opponents to interact with this. So 2 of these, 2 Serrated Bone Spikes and 2 Door of Shadows, are the 6 cards that are new from Castle Nathria in this deck. Otherwise, this functions like Boat Rogue that has Maestro. Look for tradables, trade, try to get the early nulls. Prep Boat is a good game plan. Smite Gone Fishing later on is a good game plan to dredge up your pirates. Scabs into Big Edwins are good. But just play for tempo and try to kill your opponent. That's kind of what the deck does. It's an aggressive-ish deck. There's some interesting stuff you can do with this. Late game after Scabs, you can get a very cheap Edwin, or Edwin with the Shadow Step, and then you can have a nice pop-off turn with Edwin where you double dip in the Edwin's Battlecry because you keep drawing cards and playing them, which buffs Edwin, but you also at the same time buff these ghosts from the Sinstone Graveyard. Edwin, draw card, play, draw card, play, draw card, play, draw card, play, graveyard. And suddenly you have 2 big minions on the board. One of them might have charge with, Smite, but even if it doesn't have charge, and especially if you have 2 Sinstone Graveyards, let's say your Smite gets mutinous, that's fine. Set up double graveyard, have a big Edwin, and now you have 2 huge stealth ghosts as well. There are games where even if one of your game plans gets dealt with, you can try to get some extra juice out of the graveyards. And not to spoil, but keep an eye out on the games that I've chosen to show in this video. There was some spicy stuff happened. It's kind of yucky that there's only 1 extortion, but I really do like Double Door of Shadows. We could maybe consider cutting a Shadow Step and putting a second extortion to add extra tradables to make the Wild Pawn All game plan a bit more consistent. But I haven't played enough of the deck to tell you that, it's absolutely correct to run 2 extortions and 1 Shadow Steps. Shadow Step helps you with Edwin, and it helps you with Null for tempo. Technically, you can use it with Smite for damage, and there were cases where it was useful. I'm not sure if it is more useful than extortion. So if you want to make a change, you can try that. But Door of Shadows, I really, really like for a couple of reasons. One, I mentioned before, it's cheap and flexible, and it can give you generation as well. But look at the spells in your deck, right? Vessel gives you gas. If you played Vessel, it can also draw the Sunken Vessel, so it's like an extra dredge. Cool. You can draw Shroud, which gives you more gas. Awesome. And then it draws you damage, removal, and then cheap, flexible card. Well, relatively flexible cards. So it just seems like a great addition. But your mulligan game plan, tradables, null. If you have a tradable, sometimes I keep Shroud as well. The difference between this list and the previous Boat Rogue list is that there are no Fillet Fighters, and I believe there's like 1 other card that was cut that I don't quite remember. But your minion density is smaller, which means that Shroud more consistently gets you null, which is also good because that synergizes with the fact that you want to play 0 mana 3/5s, and it synergizes with the graveyard, which is nice. There's the deck. Have fun. Go hit some people in the head, and enjoy the expansion. Rogue, eh? You really hope they revert some of the wear nerfs? I hope so too. Like, honestly, if they change Shield Shatter to deal 5, that's already a huge boon. That's one of the main things that I didn't get where they changed. I can understand that you want to nerf From the Depths because it caused issues for a couple of reasons. One, because it was just so backbreaking. And, like, even then, fine, if you want to kill Nelly, which they did. But changing Depths and Nelly made it so that there just isn't viable game plans. Like, it's not there. Real Hope Rogue is the nuts if the mini set. You want to play the new location with the Real Rogue deck? And Rogue is just real, is it not? I mean, Thief Rogue isn't really that nutty right now, but... I personally don't want Rogue to be playable, because... that's unfortunate. Rogue has always been nutty. There was like one meta when it wasn't illegal, and even that meta was just pretty good. No, I think I lost. I needed to get something down this turn probably to win, and currently I don't have that something. Double Null's still pretty good, but probably not good enough. Well, maybe this does get there, actually. We have Vessel into Vessel. Vessel into Vessel, gone fishing, and then Smite. Maybe this is enough. And the was annoying when they had Smite. Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't remove... So yeah, I don't know. I guess the problem with removing Smite from the Nelly pool is that you can still just play Smite, and it kind of sidesteps the issue. I really want to tooth this, but I kind of have to just smork, so I don't think I can afford to trade damage right now. I don't know, but I think Nelly was the reasonable nerf. I don't think they should change From the Depths. And if they did change From the Depths, they should have changed it to be like, I think they should have changed it to be, like 2 mana reduced by 2. I think that was fine. Because that alleviates a few problems, because it doesn't have crazy discounts, which has rippling effects at the Charge Warrior and stuff like that. And it still changes the... I don't know. It just feels awful now. There's no playable early game for Warrior. You just pass, and then you do something on 4, which is just not acceptable. When they're trying to push proactive game plans on decks, it just doesn't make sense to me. That's upsetting. What is this card? That's funny. We set up 2-turn lethal here. Okay. I need to find a taunt or something. Music the moment you want it. That's a taunt sometimes. The problem is that's not enough. Oh, with scabs that is enough. Okay, very nice. The swing ones here. And then we go for scabs, and then we heal just enough. But I need them not to hit good things over the next 2 turns. Now the question is, do I Shadow Step here to get something down? And I think I do. It means I can go coin, scabs, and then also hero power out the second pirate. Which doesn't really matter, but like, why not? I'm at 18, they have 14. So stab is lethal. I'm not sure that I can run stab, but it might. That's not going to work. Those cards don't help. I guess they could hope I don't have lethal, but... Very nice. That was crispy. Very crispy. Really sucks. I feel like my opponent, again, Omega high roll that game. I couldn't really do much about it. What do you think about Theotar? Theotar is an incredibly powerful card, and also probably was a mistake. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say mistake. Mistake implies that it's just absolutely wrong to make cards that are interesting. And that's not true, because it's cool to make cards that are cool and interesting. But Theotar is such an incredibly punishing card that costs you nothing. There's no restriction for you to run that card. It's a neutral card. And you do sacrifice a card from your hand as well, but it's like Dirty Rat on crack. I don't know. Theotar seems just... It's a very frustrating card to play against, and it's not like Ticketus. Ticketus has restrictions, right? That's an example of a card that's still disruptive, but it's not as trivial as just you play it in your deck, and then you have a very high chance to screw up your opponent. You can build a deck around Ticketus that makes it consistent. Well, that makes it easier, but inconsistent. But Theotar has none of that. Like, the most restrictive thing about it is that it's 4 mana. And that's not that expensive for a win the game card, right? Seems very slow, but with the graveyards in hand, next turn I can do some stuff. Next turn I can make some very large things, which seems smart. Okay. I think we're all in here. I think we're all in here. And I think it's fine that we're all in here. Playing around Quote Cold. This seemed like a pretty good turn. You think if you didn't discover the card in your hand, at least be better? So that's where it's kind of complicated, because if it was just swap random cards, no one would really run that. Right? That's not a good card. That's not even a playable card. That's worse than Dirty Rat. Dirty Rat specifically targeted cards that you're trying to remove. And granted, there are win conditions that aren't minions, but Dirty Rat was a more consistent Theotar if we're talking about randomness. So I think having the Discover makes sense, but it feels really toxic that the card's just gone. I don't know. This was an interesting lethal. Huh. Well, that's going on YouTube. Hi, YouTube.